The moment they realize no one will ever love them like you did, you stand amid the ruins of a once brilliant bond, feeling as if the ground has been swallowed by darkness. Your heart is heavy, you gave everything, yet there they are, moving on as if it meant nothing. This is the moment they realized no one will ever love them like you did, and you must confront what that means. It is tempting to let bitterness swallow you, to think you are the victim of a cruel cosmic joke. But there is another path, even in darkness, a path of meaning emerges. Love is not a trophy or a commodity. It is the sacred fire of the soul. In giving everything, you have lived like the sacrificial heroes of myth. You carried that burden not because it was easy, but because you believed in something higher. And even now, as you stand wounded, the universe is watching. In the moral order of things, those who commit to something noble often find meaning later, even if victory is not immediate. Look deep into yourself. This heartache is more than pain. It is a furnace that tempers your character. You have faced a trial by fire, and as Viktor Frankl taught, even in suffering, man's last freedom is the choice of attitude. You can remain the victim of life's cruelty, or you can become the author of a new story, rising from these ashes. You gave love a priceless gift. Now give yourself a sense of purpose and a promise not to bow to despair. You loved as the great heroes do, boldly, bravely, without guarantee. In that love, there is no failure, only strength. The world may feel orphaned by the rare sacrifice you gave, but that need not remain. You still draw breath, and in the journey of the archetypal hero, the darkest night of the soul is the herald of transformation. You have faced your battle and lived to tell the tale. That truth anchors you. Remember the warrior who tends his own wounds. Now you can be that warrior. Yes, the wound is fresh and the grief real. Let yourself feel it fully. But stand straight. Do not let this suffering define you. The crucible of this ordeal has forged you into something stronger. When you look in the mirror, see not a victim, but a survivor with eyes still capable of love. Life handed you a grotesque lesson. Love can carry great pain, but it also carries great meaning. It's easy to imagine this is the end, but like the phoenix, you will rise from these embers. The moral order of the universe does not reward avoiding pain, it rewards facing it with courage. What you feel now is courage painfully extracted from betrayal. The world outside is chaotic, friendships as fragile as petals in a storm, but within you something unbreakable is growing wisdom, responsibility, resilience. They may think they know you, but you know what lies within. By offering your heart and seeing it cast away, you have an opportunity few ever get, the chance to truly meet yourself. Confront the questions swirling in that trauma. Who are you without their approval? It is here on this scorched field that the true hero begins to rebuild. Every choice you make now is infused with the knowledge that you stood for love unflinchingly. The path ahead is dark, yes, but you were never meant to walk it alone. Stand up. Look at this wound, a mark of battle, not a sign of shame, but a fierce pride. You loved fully, and thus you understand your own depth. Now align yourself with an order that requires no outside validation. Create meaning out of this chaos. Call it perseverance. Call it growth. Call it something inherently yours. The moment they realized no one will ever love them like you did is bitter, but it proves how big your heart was. You have it in you to channel your love into something powerful. You are more than this loss. You are forging a new life from these ashes. Your love was never something ordinary. It was not a shallow, fleeting connection based on convenience or selfish desire. It was the kind of love that required sacrifice, patience, and endurance. You chose to give not because it was easy, but because it was right. You put your heart into the relationship knowing that love, in its truest form, is not a mere exchange of benefits, but a commitment to the well-being and growth of another person. This is why it was rare. Most people do not have the courage or the willingness to sustain that level of devotion. They want the appearance of love without the labor of it, the warmth without the fire that keeps it alive. You, however, stepped into the fire willingly, carrying the weight of another person's trust, flaws, and dreams on your shoulders. It is tempting in the aftermath of heartbreak to question the worth of what you gave. You might think that because they left or because they failed to cherish it, your love somehow loses its value. But that is not true. The value of your love does not depend on their ability to recognize it. A diamond remains a diamond whether it is displayed in a crown or buried in the ground. The rare, selfless love you offered came from the depths of your integrity and the kind of character that is forged over years of growth, learning, and struggle. That cannot be diminished simply because another person could not hold it. If anything, the loss lies with them, for they were entrusted with something most people will never encounter in their lifetime. You knew how to love beyond the surface. You saw not only their strengths, but also their vulnerabilities. And instead of exploiting those weaknesses or resenting them, you embraced them as part of the whole. You built them up in moments when they doubted themselves. You stayed when the path grew difficult. And you believed in them more fiercely than they believed in themselves. That is a rare quality because it requires both humility and courage. Humility to set aside your own ego when the relationship demanded patience, and courage to remain steadfast when storms came. It is important to remember that loving in this way is not a flaw, even though the pain it brings can be immense. A society that often prizes convenience over commitment and appearance over substance does not encourage people to love with such depth. To give yourself so completely is to swim against the current, to resist the easy path of detachment and self-preservation. Many will choose to guard their hearts to avoid the kind of hurt you are experiencing now. But you did not. You risked the pain because you knew that without risk, there is no genuine connection. Love without vulnerability is not love at all. It is a performance. You refuse to perform. You lived it fully. And because your love was rare, it leaves an imprint. Whether or not they ever admit it, they will carry the memory of what you gave. In quieter moments, when they find themselves in relationships that lack that depth, they will feel the absence of what you brought. They may not understand it fully, or they may try to deny it, but deep down they will know they once had something extraordinary. That realization will not come with fireworks or dramatic confessions. It will arrive quietly, perhaps years later, when they are confronted with the hollowness of something that looks like love, but feels nothing like the warmth you gave so freely. You must also recognize that your ability to love this way is not just for others. It is part of your identity, your personal truth. The same qualities that made you capable of such deep care are the ones that will allow you to rebuild yourself now. Compassion, patience, loyalty. These are not weaknesses. They are strengths that can be directed toward your own healing. You can take the same dedication you once poured into them and pour it into yourself, your passions, your future. What you gave was proof that you are capable of the kind of love that can change a life. That means you carry within you the power to create a life rich with meaning and connection, regardless of who stands beside you. There is also a moral dimension to loving the way you did. In a world where betrayal, abandonment, and apathy are common, you acted differently. You lived out a principle that is easy to speak about, but hard to embody, to give without keeping score, to stay when things are hard, and to choose someone even when it is inconvenient. That is integrity in action. And integrity leaves a mark on the person who lives it, regardless of the outcome. Even if they did not value it, you can walk away knowing you acted in a way that aligns with your highest ideals. There is a quiet strength in that knowledge, one that no rejection can erase. The rarity of your love lies not only in how much you gave, but in how intentionally you gave it. You did not love blindly or passively. You made the active choice to care, to support, to invest in another human being. That is a deliberate act of creation, because love of this magnitude shapes the future. It shapes the other person's path, and it shapes your own. It is not something that appears by accident, nor is it sustained by luck. It comes from the disciplined choice to keep showing up day after day, even when the feelings waver, even when fatigue sets in. That is what makes it sacred. So when you think of your love as rare, understand that it is not a compliment you give yourself in a moment of self-pity. It is an acknowledgement of the truth. You have lived what many only speak of. You have embodied what most only dream about. And while that may have cost you dearly, it also places you among the few who understand the real weight and the real beauty of what it means to give yourself entirely to another human being. Heartbreak is one of the most painful teachers you will ever encounter, yet it is also one of the most transformative. In the moment, it feels like destruction, like someone has torn away the foundations you stood upon. The air feels heavier, time moves slower, and every thought seems to circle back to the loss. But what often goes unnoticed is the silent work taking this beneath the surface. The way this pain is forging you into something stronger than you were before. Suffering, when faced directly, becomes a kind of furnace, stripping away illusions, confronting you with the truth of who you are, and tempering the steel of your character. It is not uncommon to want to run from this pain, to bury it under distraction, denial, or anger. That instinct is human. It is a way to avoid feeling the rawness of what has happened. But the path of growth does not lie in avoidance. It lies in sitting with the discomfort, in allowing yourself to fully feel the grief, the betrayal, and the emptiness. Pain only becomes poison when it is ignored. When it is faced, it becomes fuel. This is the paradox of heartbreak. It feels like it is breaking you, but in reality, it is shaping you. Think of how a blacksmith works with metal. The metal must endure the heat of the forge and the strikes of the hammer before it takes on its true form. Without that heat, it remains brittle and shapeless. Without the blows, it cannot gain its strength. Heartbreak is your forge, and the strikes you feel are life-shaping you into a more resilient and aware version of yourself. It does not feel noble while it is happening, but neither does the fire feel like creation. It feels like destruction until the shape emerges. This process forces you to confront truths about yourself and the world. You may come to see that you placed your identity entirely in the relationship, that you neglected parts of yourself in the name of keeping someone else happy. Or you might realize that you tolerated treatment that diminished you because you feared losing the connection. These are not easy truths to face, but they are essential if you are to grow beyond this point. Heartbreak has a way of stripping you down to your core, leaving you with nothing but the unvarnished reality of your choices and your values. From that place, you can rebuild, not on the shaky ground of dependency or fantasy, but on the solid foundation of self-respect and clarity. Pain teaches you patience. In the early days, it feels like nothing will ever change, like the H in your chest will be permanent. But time, paired with your willingness to heal, gradually shifts the weight. You begin to see that you can endure more than you thought possible. Each day you wake up and carry on. You prove to yourself that you are capable of withstanding life's storms. This resilience is not given freely. It is earned through every moment you choose to face the day when you would rather hide from it. Over time, this earned resilience becomes part of your character, a quiet strength you will carry into every future challenge. Heartbreak also sharpens your understanding of love. It forces you to separate the idea of love from the fantasy of it. You come to see that love is not simply about passion or companionship. It is also about mutual respect, emotional safety, and shared responsibility. When you have known the absence of these qualities, you learn to recognize and value them more deeply. You become less willing to accept half measures or hollow gestures. This refined awareness will serve you in the future, helping you choose relationships that align with your worth and your values. And perhaps most importantly, heartbreak deepens your empathy. You understand pain in a way you did not before, and this makes you more compassionate toward others who are suffering. You know what it is like to feel unseen, to feel abandoned, to struggle through days that seem impossible. That understanding is a gift, though it is wrapped in the harshest paper. It allows you to connect with others on a level that is both human and profound. It strips away judgment and replaces it with kindness because you know firsthand that everyone carries invisible battles. This transformation is not instant. The furnace works slowly and the strikes are not gentle. But one day you will look back and see the ways you have changed. You will notice that your boundaries are stronger, your vision clearer, your heart more discerning. You will see that the person you were before heartbreak was not weak, but the person you have become because of heartbreak is even stronger. The pain that once felt unbearable will have become part of the story of your strength, a chapter that, while difficult, was essential to the book of who you are. What feels now like an ending is also the beginning of a deeper self-awareness. The lessons you carry forward will not just protect you, they will guide you toward experiences and relationships that are richer and more aligned with your true self. Pain leaves scars, but those scars are proof that you survived, that you adapted, and that you refused to let loss define the rest of your life. Every step you take beyond this point is a declaration that you can endure heartbreak without losing yourself, and in fact, that you can emerge from it more whole than before. What feels like the end of your story is often just the middle, the turning point where everything that seemed certain falls apart, forcing you to walk a path you never intended to take. In the depths of heartbreak, it is almost impossible to imagine that anything good can grow from the rubble. The pain is raw, the memories are sharp, and the future feels like a blank void. But life is not a straight line, it is a series of transformations. And the moments that feel like destruction are often the very moments where the most significant change begins. This is not an ending, but the start of something that could redefine you entirely. Transformation rarely comes from comfort. We change because we are pushed, because the familiar is stripped away, because the ground beneath us shifts, and we are forced to adapt. Heartbreak is one of the clearest examples of this. The loss pushes you out of the life you thought you're building and into a space where you must question everything: who you are, what you value, what you deserve, and where you are going. Those questions, while painful, are the seeds of growth. They open the possibility of living in a way that is more honest, more courageous, and more aligned with your true self. The transformation begins in small, almost invisible ways. At first, all you notice is the absence. The silence where their voice used to be, the empty space where they used to sit, the hollow routines stripped of their meaning. But beneath that emptiness, your mind is quietly adjusting. You are relearning how to stand without leaning on them, how to breathe without waiting for their reassurance. These first steps are not glamorous. They are slow, uneven, and often painful. Yet they are the foundation of your rebirth. Over time, you begin to realize that your life is no longer constrained by the shape of the relationship you lost. When you were with them, consciously or not, parts of you molded themselves to fit into their world. Some dreams were delayed. Some pieces of your identity were softened or hidden. Now, without that mold holding you, you have the chance to rediscover the parts of yourself that went quiet. Maybe it's the ambition you set aside, the friendships you let fade, or the passions you told yourself you no longer had time for. These parts of you are still there, waiting to be reclaimed. Transformation also means confronting your fears. One of the most powerful truths you learn through heartbreak is that you can survive without the person you thought you could not live without. Before the loss, the idea of life without them seemed unbearable. Now you are living it, sometimes stumbling, sometimes barely getting through the day, but living nonetheless. This realization is profound because it breaks the illusion that your survival depends on someone else. It reveals that your strength is your own, and it has been with you all along. As this truth takes root, something shifts in your perspective. You start to see possibilities in places you once saw only limits. You may find yourself drawn to new experiences, meeting new people, or taking risks you once avoided. These changes are not a betrayal of the love you had. They are proof that life that continues to move forward and that you are capable of moving with it. The transformation is not about erasing the past. It is about carrying its lessons into a future that is wider and richer than you once imagined. There is also a spiritual dimension to this kind of transformation. Pain strips away illusions, and with those illusions gone, you are left face to face with the deeper questions of meaning and purpose. Why do we love knowing it can lead to loss? Why risk your heart again after it's been broken? These are not questions with easy answers, humble answer, but wrestling with them shapes you into someone who understands life more fully. You begin to see that the value of love was never in its permanence, but in the depth and sincerity with which you gave it. That truth makes you both wiser and more open to the possibility of loving again. Not because you need someone to complete you, but because you now understand the beauty of sharing your already complete self. The transformation also changes the way you see others. You develop a sharper sense for authenticity, for the kind of connection that is worth your time. You are less willing to tolerate superficial bonds because you have lived through the cost of giving yourself to someone who could not match your depth. This discernment is one of the greatest gifts of heartbreak. It protects you from repeating the same mistakes and draws you toward relationships that can truly nourish you. Eventually, you will look back and see that the moment you thought was the end was actually the moment life began steering you toward a truer path. The relationship was a chapter, an important one full of love and lessons, but it was not the entire book. By losing it, you were forced to step into a new chapter, one you where are the central force shaping your own story. And while that chapter may still be unwritten, you will carry into it the strength, clarity, and wisdom you gain from the pain. This is how endings become beginnings. Not through denial, not through pretending you were never hurt, but through embracing the reality that loss can be the doorway to a more authentic version of yourself. You do not have to rush this transformation. It will unfold naturally in its own time as you continue to live, to feel, and to choose growth over stagnation. One day, you will see that the person you became because of this loss is someone you would never trade for the person you were before it happened. Your worth has never been dependent on whether someone else could see it. That truth is difficult to hold on to when the person you loved most walked away or failed to value what you gave, but it remains unchanged. The tragedy of heartbreak often lies in the illusion it creates, that their rejection is proof you are somehow less, that their inability to love you as you deserved must mean you were unworthy of that love. This is not reality. It is the distortion that grief and loss press upon the mind. The truth is that the value of a diamond is not diminished when it is dropped into the dirt. It remains what it is, whether or not the person holding it knows how to recognize its worth. When someone fails to appreciate you, they are not defining your value. They are revealing their own limitations. People see through the lens of their own experiences, their wounds, their fears, and their capacity to give and receive love. Some are so guarded or so broken that they cannot recognize genuine care when it is in front of them. Others are caught in cycles of self-interest, looking for relationships only so long as they are easy or immediately gratifying. If you loved with depth, patience, and sincerity, and it still was not enough for them, that says more about the shape of their soul than it does about the quality of yours. It is dangerous to let another person's vision of you become the mirror in which you judge yourself. When you measure your worth only through their approval, you hand them power over your sense of self, and that power can be misused, intentionally or not. Their moods, their insecurities, their shifting needs become the tide that lifts or sinks you. This is why heartbreak feels so devastating. The anchor you placed in their hands has been dropped, leaving you adrift. But here lies the opportunity to reclaim that anchor and place it within yourself, where it cannot be taken away. Your worth intrinsic. It is built from the sum of your character, your choices, your ability to love, to endure, to create meaning from hardship. It is not negotiable. This does not mean you are without flaws. No one is. But it does mean that your flaws do not erase your value. The fact that you can self-reflect, grow, and learn from your mistakes only adds to your strength. Relationships are not the ultimate validation of worth. They are one of many places where your worth can be expressed. Losing one does not diminish the whole. It is important to separate worth from compatibility. You may have deeply valuable to them in ways they could not or would not understand, just as two puzzle pieces can both be perfect in their own shapes yet fail to fit together. So too can two people fail to connect in a lasting way, despite the inherent worth of each. The failure of the fit does not make either piece defective. It simply means the connection was not the one meant to last. When you begin to see your worth as something self-contained, you also begin to set stronger boundaries. You realize that love is not about tolerating being diminished just to keep someone close. It is about finding someone who can meet you as an equal, who respects and honors the depth of what you bring. The more you understand your own value, the less willing you are to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's limited vision. This is one of the great lessons heartbreak can teach you if you are willing to learn it, that losing someone who could not see your worth is not the same as losing the worth itself. There will be moments when you are tempted to question all of this. Loneliness has a way of distorting memory, making you remember only the good and forget the ways you were unseen. But if you look honestly, you will recall the small dismissals, the subtle ways you were taken for granted, the times you gave more than you received. Those moments are not proof of your inadequacy. They are proof that the relationship was not built on mutual recognition. Standing in the aftermath of loss, you have the choice to rebuild your view of yourself from the inside out. That means cultivating self-respect through the actions you take daily, holding promises you make to yourself, pursuing what brings you meaning, surrounding yourself with people who truly value you. Every time you choose these things, you reinforce the truth that your worth is not dependent on another's acceptance. There is a quiet freedom in no longer needing to be seen by the wrong eyes. When you carry your worth within you, you can walk into the future without the constant hunger for validation. Love, when it comes again, will be something you share out of abundance, not out of need. You will not settle for crumbs when you know you deserve the feast of mutual respect and care. And if you encounter someone who cannot or will not meet you there, you will be able to walk away without doubting yourself, because you know the truth. They are not the measure of you. This perspective does not erase the pain of being undervalued, but it transforms it. It shifts you from feeling powerless to recognizing the agency you have over your life and your sense of self. You become the guardian of your own worth, and in doing so, you ensure that no one, no matter how much you care for them, can take it from you again.